Hey everybody, it's Tyler and welcome to week 8 of the Reason Beginner's Guide. Last week we finished learning about EQ, and this week we're going to get into learning about reverb. So before we get started, I made a couple changes here in the background here. I noticed the piano was actually causing some really big CPU issues. This piano I'm using is actually really CPU intensive. So what I did is I bounced in place the piano and just turned it into an audio file. It'll sound exactly the same. It just makes it a lot easier for my computer to play the piano back. And also, here in the mix tab here, I have 2 piano tracks because we had 2 piano tracks here. And I have them going to a bus, 1 piano bus. So basically, these 2 tracks are going into this one right here, and I can control the volume of both of them with this one, and it's pretty awesome. And we'll probably be using this one right here as the main piano. All right, so reverb. Reverb is like that sound you get when you go in like a giant church or like a giant hallway, when you shout really loud and you hear that. Not the echo, not like a repetition of your voice, but like a bigger like feeling of your voice. And reverb here in the production world is essential to make your mixes sound better. Like just about every song you make is going to have some sort of reverb, because reverb just makes everything sound so much better. Now so far the only effects that we've put on our channels here have been EQ, and if you notice, the EQ has been going directly under the instrument. So if we look at the serum instrument here, if we look at the signal flow, it's coming out of the serum, it's going into the EQ, it's going out back to the mix channel. Now, we could put reverb. Let's say we take the reverb we're going to use we'll just use the Reason reverb, the RV7000. We could stick it on there like that, and we could have it so that the EQ just feeds directly into the equalizer, but that's not really the best way to do reverb. And the reason is, if you notice here, there's this kind of wet, dry knob here. There's actually 2 reasons. The first reason, this wet, dry knob here, this is like a blend of the original signal and the reverb signal. It's a blend between the 2 of them. Therefore, you're kind of losing the volume kind of out of the original signal the more you go towards wet. Like if I go to wet, that's going to be all reverb, but if I come to dry, it's going to be no reverb. And the more I move towards the wet, the less of the original signal I have, because it's a blend between the 2. And there's a better way to do this. Also, if we stick the reverb into the mix channel, we have no control over how this reverb sounds apart from this. This is all one sound going into the mix channel, and we don't want that. When we produce, we want to have as much control as possible. The more control we have over our sounds, the more we can tweak them, the better we can have them sit together, and just the better off your song's going to sound. So the way we do this in Reason is we go to the master section here. Let's grab our effect. So let's grab the reverb. We just drag it onto the master section. Now be careful not to drag it in this little black box area here. That's actually the master chain. That's what, if we look at our master here, that's actually the whole master fader area. The entire track runs through these effects that would be in this black box here. We don't have anything in there because we don't have any effects. But by dragging it to the master section, if we flip the rack over here, we can see that the reverb is plugged in 2 places here. We have effect send. So basically the master section sends signal to the reverb, and then the reverb, the audio output here, sends signal back to the return. So it returns to the effects. And what this does is that if we go here and we look at our mixer, we have these effects returns, and we can actually see our reverb here. Well, what we got to do, say we want to put reverb on, let's say our vocal track right here, audio track 1. We click the 1 to turn the reverb on, and we can dial it in with this level. That way we keep the original signal and we have control over our reverb. So let's just like turn this down and just dial it in and just take a listen. say it's easy when you know it's rough, and I might be crazy. Hear that? 'Cause I can't get enough. Our song was kind of empty, but with that reverb, it kind of fills in that space and really makes it sound 10 times better. Now we can even go into this even more here. The reverb is emulation, basically. It's an algorithm that emulates certain types of areas. Like we got an arena, we got, well, plate is a different type of thing, but we got halls, different types of halls, different size rooms, small spaces, like echo type stuff. Spring reverb and plate reverb are based around physical reverb units that you'd find in like mixing racks and like actual studios. They sound pretty cool. For this song, though, I think we want to go for some sort of hall or something. Like, yeah, let's go for a hall. So let's just play it back and just take a listen. Let's solo the vocal actually, so we can hear it easier. When you know it's tough, let me loop it real quick. We can solve this riddle. Cool. All right. Who is riddle of love? You say it's easy. So right here we can adjust the size of the reverb, how long it lasts. We can have it last super long if we wanted to. And I might be crazy. I think that may be a little too long. I can't get enough. You say it's simple. All right. We can choose the room shape here. We can solve this riddle. The reverb just sounds a tiny bit different, you know. I'm gonna go with 2. You say it's easy. And right here we have the pre-delay. This is an important one. The pre-delay is like how long the reverb takes to kick in, basically. And it's really important because sometimes you'll see people have it at 0 and it's not good because the reverb's now competing with the original signal, and you want both, but you don't want them to step on each other's toes. So basically, if we go here and we turn it up maybe like 30 milliseconds, experiment, obviously, just see what it sounds like. And I might be crazy. You can actually kind of hear it. It's kind of like an echo, kind of. You hear the voice, you say it's simple, and you hear the reverb. When you know it's tough, if we dial it down, we can solve this riddle. It kind of becomes mushy sounding a little bit, like muddy. It doesn't really fit together. But if we give it a little pre-delay, we can give it a lot of pre-delay too. When you know it's rough, that could be a cool effect if you like that. But let's just dial it down to like maybe 30, 35 or something. Some of the other controls we have here, we have the dry wet. If you're doing this the correct way, this should always be wet. No dry reverb. 100% reverb signal here. We have the decay, which also greatly adjusts the length of the reverb. We can have this go for that's probably like almost forever. Probably not a good idea. Bring it down to like 3 seconds, 2 seconds, whatever. You just play with it and see what it sounds like. You say it's simple. It's crazy long reverb right there. Overwhelming reverb. We don't need that much. Solve this riddle. I think that's a nice little happy medium for that. Also, there's EQ on this reverb. We can equalize the reverb. Now, if you're going to use this reverb unit, I highly suggest don't use the EQ on this reverb because it's not good. You don't have a lot of control. You get one low shelf and you get one bell curve that you can adjust and put it anywhere. And that's it. That's all you get. It's pretty lame, to be honest. And even using the stock Reason EQ, you're going to have way more control over your EQ on the reverb. So don't even bother using this EQ that's in here. It's kind of obtuse. But we'll come back to EQing the reverb after we add some more reverb to some other instruments. So, speaking of that, let's go do that. So, let's actually unsolo and just listen to the whole track here. You Let's add some reverb to the piano. Fill in that space a little bit. Maybe add a lot, maybe. Not that much. A lot of this is just kind of playing with it and seeing what you like, seeing what sounds good, seeing what doesn't sound good, you know? Maybe we'll add a little bit to the clap. Oh, that's a... Yeah, just a little bit. Let's skip to the instrumental here. Oops. Gotta take it off loop. And already we can tell that it's much more full. A lot of that empty space has been taken up. So now that we've added reverb, let's go and EQ that reverb. So let's go back to the chorus here and loop that. And what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna stick an EQ on there. Now, Reason, unfortunately, decided to connect my EQ to the second FX send. There's no use for putting in, well, there you might find use, but I've never found use for putting just an EQ on an FX return. That's kind of ridiculous. So we can just disconnect this, and we got to do some wiring ourselves. So now we need to disconnect this too. So the output, we'll send that to the EQ, send the EQ back to FX return 1. So now we have it going to the reverb, to the EQ, back into the console. So now we should be able to EQ our reverb. So the thing with EQing reverb is you want to cut out all the stuff that you don't need, just like regular EQ on anything really, but even more so with reverb, because the way reverb is, it's very like, you know, it fills up that space. It takes up a lot of space really, sonically. So you really want to do some harsh cuts with it to cut out all that stuff that's competing. So let's take a low cut, and some of the reverb down below, you don't need it. So we're just going to kind of cut that out. We can solve this riddle. Yeah. Below 100 hertz, you don't need any of that reverb. It's all mud. And then sometimes you may not want to, but a lot of the times you're going to want to cut the highs. Because that high like glisten that you get from the reverb kind of really competes with everything else in the mix. It takes up a lot of space. I'd say like cutting around there, sometimes good. Maybe more, maybe less, depending on what the song needs. I like it right here. And then we can go in if we think the reverb needs like a boost or something. Maybe give it a boost, or maybe we cut it somewhere if it's getting in the way. I'm gonna give it a little bit of a boost. Yeah. So already, just by adding one effect on a couple instruments, we hear this song is already sounding miles better. And that's what reverb does. Now, if you're having trouble with this whole reverb, making your own reverb, it's difficult. There's quite a bit of really nice patches they have here. I'd say try them all out, see what you like. Lots of options here. For a stock plugin, I think some of these sound all right. So remember, when it comes to reverb, always set it up as an effects send. EQ your reverb, always. Cut the highs, cut the lows, and just experiment. See what it sounds good on. See what it doesn't sound good on. Don't use it on that stuff. Figure out what works and what doesn't. That's really the name of the game here, music production. So next week, we're going to be talking about something pretty similar to reverb, and that's delay. It's kind of like reverb's brother, I guess, or sister, however you want to think about it. They're very closely related. As a matter of fact, reverb is actually a type of delay, and we can talk about that next time. So if you want to see that, make sure you hit that red subscribe button. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. As always, it's been a pleasure. This is Tyler signing out.